You're watching Policing York Region. This episode is all about air support with York Regional Police. I'm Don Pratt, and I'll be right back. On the second half of this show, we also get a chance to speak with ERU, the Emergency Response Unit. But first, we're heading over to the Air Support hangar. Hello again, everyone. I'm here with Sergeant Gary Phillips, and we're talking everything air support. Gary, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, what all can we talk about when we with air support? We're in. This is your hangar here.
Yeah, you're at Buttonville Airport.
Okay.
We're located at Hangar 17.
Right. And you share space with some of these other crafts.
Yeah, as you can see around us, these are all privately owned aircraft.
Okay.
So we just share a common space in amongst all these privately owned aircraft.
Right. So, and who all comes out with York Regional Police? Who all is staffed at this location?
At this location, we have 4 full-time tactical flight officers.
Okay.
Now, they're police officers with York Regional Police.
Right.
Now, our pilots are civilian pilots.
Right.
And they're under contract to York Regional Police with Canadian helicopters. So on a given day in total, we have myself, we have an engineer down here Monday to Friday, and we also have the pilot and the tactical flight officer.
The engineer, what's his role?
He just maintains the aircraft. It's his role to maintain operations and to limit the downtime that we have to be available for service.
He's just keeping your craft in good shape.
Awesome shape, yes, he is. Yeah.
Right. And in any given day, how many hours would you say that the aircraft is actually out on service?
Well, the guys work a 12-hour shift. We either work from 6 p.m. at night to 6 in the morning, or from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. On a given day, we're probably operational in the air 4 to 5 hours a day.
Okay. And so, but there's really no limit to how long you could be up there.
No, usually if we're called to service, we're on scene for as long as we're needed, or until we need some fuel. But most of the time, we are available from the sky to respond to calls.
Right. So, and what would an average day be with the craft? What kind of calls are you looking at?
Well, our main support is we support uniform officers on the ground.
Right.
So anything of significance, of a high priority, obviously for an officer safety, the aircraft is going to respond. But in general, we are going to be responding like to hold up alarms, assist officers on the ground. Right. If we have an officer that's at nighttime that's stopping a vehicle way out in a secluded area, the aircraft will fly above, light the area up just to illuminate it, to give that officer some support, knowing that there is some support from above and the presence for that officer. It's a safety thing.
And well said. Support from above, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So fueling, you have you do that down here at Buttonville?
Yeah, we have 2 fueling stations. We do have services down here at the airport. When we're operational, if we're up at the north end in Newmarket, say if we're up in Keswick, we have our own fueling station up there at the 3 district headquarters.
Right on there.
And again, it saves us time from having to fly all the way back to Buttonville. If we're on scene, say of a missing person, that we are required to do some major searches, we don't have time to leave, come back here. So that's why that station is up there, to keep us operational and to keep us available if we need fuel.
Makes sense. More time available for service.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
And what command does this unit actually fall under within YRP?
We fall under the operational support.
Okay.
And that's headed up by the unit commander of Superintendent Karen Noakes.
Okay. And what other areas would fall under operational support?
To me, it's probably one of the most important units within the organization. I'm not saying that because I work here, but in this whole unit, you have the traffic bureau, you've got the emergency response unit, you've got K9 unit, air support unit, the reconstruction, search and rescue, incident command. There's a lot of specialty units and a lot of officers that are passionate about what they do here. So to me, it's one of the pinnacle units within the organization.
So, and the craft itself, we were talking earlier about the engineer and him taking care of it. And the service and the maintenance on it. It's
Yes.
not, obviously it's a little more detailed than a standard car.
You know, it's not driving into your quick lube to get a quick oil change. That is
course.
far from it.
Right.
We fall under Transport Canada guidelines, which
Okay.
are probably the strictest guidelines in the world.
Right.
We also have the manufacturer's guidelines. So for example, every 100 hours, or sorry, every 15 hours, the aircraft has to be inspected. For every 15 hours of flight,
Okay.
the engineer will go over it
Right.
based on the manufacturer specifications.
Right.
There's also a 100-hour inspection, 500-hour
And
inspections.
these are done by the engineer?
By the engineer. So they're done by our own in-house engineer, again with Canadian National Helicopters.
Right.
But it's very strict. For example, I'm not an accredited engineer. If
Okay.
I was to take a screw out of that aircraft, I have now deemed that unairworthy. It can't fly.
Wow.
That's how strict it is. So anything that's doing any involvement with maintenance or service, it's the engineer.
Okay. So you're making sure it's
Very, very strict
yeah,
safety guidelines.
you want to make sure that everything's
Yes.
in good.
Yeah. Well, when you're at
repair.
1,500 feet in the air, like
Absolutely.
in a car, you can pull over if you get a flat tire. If you're up in the air and something happens, there's a whole different spectrum that's happening. up there,
Opportunity
so-
is far different when you're in the air, I'm sure.
Yes, for sure.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for the time.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, everyone, we're back with Constable Richie Wicks, Tactical Flight Officer with York Regional Police and the Air Support Unit. Richie, welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for showing us around the craft. I mean, so we've talked to Sergeant Gary Phillips about some of what Air Support does. Can you tell us a little bit about the craft itself?
Yeah, the helicopter itself is a Eurocopter 120.
Okay.
We've had it for about 16 years, roughly. In it, we have a number of equipment that we use to do our job, basically to support our frontline police officers.
Right.
We have a different number of roles that we do. If you want me to go
Yeah,
into detail.
so you're talking about supporting frontline officers. What is your relationship to the frontline, and obviously there's other units within York Regional Police as
Yes, our main mission profile is to support our frontline uniform officers. What that entails is that we go into different type of calls. For example, if you have a person who is missing, like an Alzheimer's patient, we will assist our frontline officers.
So while the officers are on the ground doing their job, you're in the air
looking at searching,
looking and giving them support.
and then also things like if you have a bank robbery or if you have suspects that are running from us or hiding from us, we can assist them in trying to find them.
So you're also going to couple this with the K9 and Marine?
That's correct. So if K9 is on, if our K9 units are on an active search, we will assist them from the air in helping trying to find the person they're looking for. If ERU or our tactical teams are in a tactical situation where they're actually involved in a scene, we can give them aerial coverage via surveillance and even giving actual intel, real-time intel from what we see.
So you're able to communicate to the folks on the ground as well.
Absolutely.
So some of the technology that you would be using on Air 2, what all do you have?
Our main piece of equipment that we actually rely on is our thermal camera, which is a MX-10 Westcam thermal camera. It actually picks up heat, heat sources like, for example, your body heat. Especially at nighttime, we're able to actually detect a person who is in an area that you can't see at nighttime through your own eyes, but we're able to see them through their body heat. So it helps us find people who are hiding from us, especially at nighttime. We also have the camera also comes with a daytime camera, which is your typical camcorder type image, but it allows us to actually zoom in from a high altitude and actually look from above as opposed to looking from the ground where you have a lot of obstructions.
And we've heard of some examples of the infrared camera being successful in helping vulnerable persons.
Absolutely. When you have vulnerable people who are lost in wooded areas, especially being the region being rural and urban, we're able to actually look down into an open area and actually see them because their body heat would show up and the camera would detect that, and we're able to actually locate them in a very large area where they themselves don't know where they are. We can actually find their location and guide officers or rescuers into where they're standing and actually.
What a great piece of technology.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's invaluable.
Absolutely, yeah, it is. It is, and life-saving tool. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So some of the other factors that you have on board the Air 2.
We also have what we call a night sun. It's a spotlight. It's a 30 million candle power.
Wow.
Now what that does is actually illuminates a large area,
Yes.
especially if we have officers on the ground who are doing an active search. Once again, I have to go back to the night scenario where light is at a premium. We can actually provide them with extra light, and hence the word night sun. We can illuminate a large area so that the officers on the ground can work safely, and actually it's safer for them because they can see their environment around them.
Another invaluable tool.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, and great in that support role once again.
Absolutely, and we use it for searches as well for the most part, but we rely on our camera because that's a little bit more of a better tool than our night sun is.
Of course. So can you talk about some of the programs that you have within Air 2?
Well, we utilize it in a couple of different ways, especially right now in the summertime. We do what we call outdoor marijuana eradication. We use the aircraft to go fly around, and we actually try to find outdoor grow operations.
So you're actively searching for grow-ops?
Absolutely. People who are growing marijuana illegally, that are obviously being used for crime and proceeds of crime, things like that. So we're actually actively searching for those locations within the region. We also utilize it for Project Erase.
Project Erase, what?
Project Erase is actually street racers.
Oh, okay, right.
Geared around street racers. Sometimes, especially on the weekends, you can have large gatherings of people who actually participate in street racing.
Right.
Great tool because we can be covert. And we can actually observe and communicate that to patrol officers when these events happen and their locations and exactly who's racing, which vehicles. We utilize this for that.
So that becomes a bad day for the guy on the ground that was street racing?
Potentially, yes. Because we are able from the air to actually identify suspects as they conduct the race and get true evidence, and then direct patrol officers to stop those vehicles and actually lay charges and seize vehicles and that sort of thing under the legislation and the new stunt driving laws.
Richie, thanks so much for being on the show.
It is my pleasure.
All right. We'll be back. Welcome back. We're now at York Regional Police Headquarters in Aurora. We just came from a great segment with Air 2 down at Buttonville Airport, and now we're going to head inside and visit with the ERU team and see some of their tools of the trade. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Staff Sergeant Wallace Gosson of the Emergency Response Unit of York Regional Police. Wallace, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Don.
So what all can you tell me about ERU and their responsibilities with YRP?
Well, the ERU is the Emergency Response Unit.
Okay.
And our mandate within our organization is to provide a service anytime there is a situation that exceeds the capability of frontline officers, given their regular amount of training and the equipment that they have on the road.
Okay.
So, we cover things for uniform officers such as barricaded suspects, armed individuals.
Yes.
On the investigative side of the house, we take care of high-risk search warrants, so that's anytime there's a warrant that needs to be executed that involves some type of weapon. On the high-end scale of problems that we sometimes deal with, we do hostage rescue, and as well, we're responsible for the response to terrorism in the region.
Right, so I guess a large part of your role is in support to the frontline officers and other units?
Yes, yeah. So our mandate's quite broad. We're always out there on the road and covering and providing support for the uniform officers.
Right.
The individuals that we have on the team go through a rigorous selection process because once we have them on the unit, they're provided world-class training in the ability to manage themselves, manage their equipment, to, as we like to say, bring a peaceful resolution to an otherwise violent situation.
Right. So what's a typical start to the day in ERU?
Typically, the officers will come in, they'll load up. We're very big on what we call operational readiness. Right. So the trucks are always loaded, ready to go. The officers have their equipment placed in a certain position. It's very much like a fire department where everything's laid out so that when the bell goes off, you can jump in your vehicle.
You're always ready for that call.
Yeah. The officers They typically will work out in the morning. One of the things that governs tactical teams in the province of Ontario are the provincial policing standards. And within that, the officers have to pass every year a physical fitness test, and as such, they're required to work out and maintain their fitness while they're on duty.
Got to be in good shape in order to do a good job. Right?
Absolutely. Our selection process in the beginning is very geared towards having officers pass the physical selection. Once they've passed the physical selection, we're big fans of saying nobody cares how fit they are anymore, as long as they can continue to pass the test. Now it becomes about judgment and their ability to interact in a team environment and contribute to the to a high performance team. So that process will take up to 6 weeks for the selection by the time that they finish their initial selection week, where we place them under stress, we assess their judgment, we make sure they're not susceptible to cognitive tunneling, their firearms marksmanship skills as well. If they pass that selection, and it's a very low pass rate because we select so high, they then go on to the different courses. The first course that they take would be the basic containment course, and again, these are provincially mandated courses. Then they would go on to the basic tactical course, and then they go on to the hostage rescue response to terrorism course. They can be cut at any point in time in any of those courses for numerous reasons, for failing to make standard at any point during their progression through the series of tests that they have to do. And then once they're on the team, they're tested again every year, once a year, on all of their different skills.
So you're always making sure that everyone's in top form.
Yes, absolutely.
On many different levels.
Yes.
Right? Both mentally, cognitively, and physically.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
And as far as team sizes, how many members per team, or how many team members do you have?
We have 23 officers right now. That includes constables, myself, and sergeants. Within our unit as well, we deal with explosive disposal unit. So we have the capability to deal with explosive devices, both the ones that are commercially manufactured, as well as the ones that somebody, for nefarious reasons, may decide to make one.
Right. So can we go over then and have a look at some of the devices that you might use in ERU?
Sure, absolutely. We've got some of the guys set up, and we can have them go through the particulars of each piece of equipment.
Fantastic. Thanks for your time. We're here with Constable Jeremy Beattie, and we're going to show some of the tools of the trade. Jeremy, thanks for being on the show. Can you walk us through some of the tools that you use in your in ERU?
Sure. The emergency response unit, obviously we've got quite a few different applications for the different tools that we have. We'll start off with our less lethal tools. Everyone knows or has heard of the taser.
Yes.
So the taser that we're using now, it's called an X2. It's a little bit different from some of the other tasers that we've used previously. It's some different capabilities, but essentially it's like every other taser. It's a conductive energy weapon, and this is used to disrupt basically any message sent from the brain to a muscle group to try and lock a person's ability to fight with us. It'll lock them up, and ideally we can get a hand on them at that point and control them, get them in handcuffs, that sort of thing. So generally we use these with people who are either assaultive, or we will use them when we're dealing with people who are emotionally disturbed. They're having an emotional episode.
So with this, you're more trying to calm a situation.
Yeah, this is it's a way to use the least amount of force with no really lasting injuries. Where we can quickly get control of somebody, and really that's our goal at all times, is to get control as quick as possible and end any situation from escalating any further.
Yeah, of course.
To go along with that, we have something called an ARWIN.
ARWIN?
The ARWIN wouldn't really be a known term, but it's a long-range impact weapon, and this is it right here. The round that it fires at about 242 feet per second. It's around the speed of a major league pitcher's fastball. And the construction of the baton that's inside, it's basically that of a hockey puck. So it's still pretty hard.
Right.
And we'll aim for major muscle groups like the legs, the arms. If we're close enough, we could actually knock a weapon out of a person's hand, like a knife or something like that.
Sure.
We won't aim for the chest or the head. It does have the ability to be lethal. We use it ideally as a less lethal tool. So we're going to, like I say, aim for those major muscle groups. It's going to be more of a pain compliance at that point, but we would use it the same as a baton strike. We have some breaching equipment on the table.
Okay.
So the ram in front here.
Right.
As we affectionately call it, the key to the city.
It's
obviously,
quite a size key.
doesn't get everywhere, but it will allow us access to most unfortified doors.
Right.
We have something like this here. It's basically an extendable pry tool.
Okay.
The other equipment, the protective equipment that we have,
Well, that's some kind of vest.
we have a vest, just like every other police officer wears a bulletproof vest. Our vests are a little bit thicker. They're meant for a heavier defense level, really.
Okay.
Like they'll protect you against higher levels of firearms. We can put plates in them so that we can actually protect against rifle rounds. You can see that this vest has a lot of stuff on it.
It does.
And the way it's constructed, the way it sits on us, it's somewhat of a load-bearing vest. So it takes a lot of that kit off our hips and puts it onto our shoulders so that we can carry it, again, more efficiently.
That looks like a pretty heavy vest.
It's a little bit more ergonomically correct, but we have all the same tools that uniform, our front line, will have on it.
Okay.
We just have a few extra things. Some flashbangs, some lighting systems, a different way to communicate on our radios, but for the most part, it's the same stuff.
Thanks.
The pistol that we carry is the same pistol that our uniform members carry. There's some subtle differences, but nothing that would really make it seem any different. We use this as a secondary weapon.
Okay.
So if we're on any call that is of a tactical nature or actually fits our mandate, we're going to our primary, and our primary gun is going to be an AR-15.
Okay.
Now again, our front line have access to AR-15s. Ours have a little bit different capabilities.
Okay.
Mine's actually got a scope on it. I've got a bipod on it, you can notice.
Yes.
And it's just a little bit more stable from distance, but this weapon system, the way it's set up, allows for close quarters combat and engagements out to 200-300 yards if need be.
Okay.
So
quite the range.
the abilities of this gun, again, and it's not the gun itself, it's some of the other stuff that we do to it, the modifications that make it a little bit more versatile.
Right.
But this is going to be our primary. Pistol's always there, but that's sort of our bread and butter. We have some other firearms in our inventory. In the ERU, we have 9 snipers. So we have 308s and 338s. This happens to be my sniper rifle. Well, not mine, the department's.
Yes.
This is the one
This
that's
is
been
one you
issued to me.
utilize, right?
I've personally shot it out to 1,000 yards accurately, and it's a pretty fun.
That's a pretty.
I'm not going to call it a toy, but I do get a lot of enjoyment
of course.
out of training on this. So
1,000 yards, that's quite the distance.
Our specialty training includes snipers, rappel masters, bomb techs, and our breachers. So, like I said, mine happens to be on a sniper and a rappel master. Right. But we do try to get in at least 1 to 2 days a month.
Okay. So there's a bit of cross training there.
Yeah, there's a lot of cross training.
Right.
And, I mean, we are a training unit. When you're on days, you spend 3 days a week doing nothing but training. So
of course.
It's good. It's maintaining equipment, looking at new equipment.
That's fantastic.
But for the most part, this is the bread and butter of what we've got. We go to ground with most of this stuff every day, and it's always available. It's our
and it's
way.
always at the ready.
Yeah, it's always at the ready, and we're always here with this kit to protect the region.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for your time. We're going to head over and see Sergeant Bruce Valentine.
Great.
And see what he has to do with you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. And now we're back to take a look at some other tools in the ERU with Sergeant Bruce Valentine. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Just an overview of the emergency response unit. Part of our program involves explosive disposal.
Right.
We have 9 bomb technicians, and within that group, their function to deal with explosive disposal
Okay.
involves some of this equipment I'm going to show you.
Right. Okay.
So robotically, we try to mitigate a lot of the calls that we have, and those types of calls are found explosives, found military ordnance, homemade explosives,
Right.
suspicious packages, and post-blast investigations for explosions that occurred.
Oh, okay.
So anytime there's a package to investigate, or a curious item, or a known confirmed bomb,
Right.
we use robotics to generally investigate and render safe those items.
Okay.
So right here you've got an I-Core robot out of the Ottawa area. It's a little bit smaller in profile. You can access more confined spaces, can work stairs, goes through doorways very well.
So this can, you said it can work stairs? This can actually
Yeah,
climb stairs?
up and down. Multiple cameras, night vision, can listen and speak to subjects or people if you need to. Working claw articulates many different angles, and then it also has a mount for its different weapon systems for disruption.
Right.
So typically on a bomb call, the robot would go investigate your package. It might x-ray what you are looking at.
You said X-ray?
X-ray, yeah. And
wow.
you interpret what's in that package. Depending on what you see, you may deal with it still robotically,
Right.
or perhaps put the bomb suit on and go approach it, or do some other things.
Right.
So if this robot's too small, we have a larger one behind you. This is a Telerob. It's out of Germany.
Right.
It's designed for heavier work with sometimes vehicle-borne explosives.
Okay.
It's strong enough to carry a person. It could
Yeah.
drag a car. Very
That's
robust.
That's a pretty substantial unit.
Yeah, it's solid. It can arm itself with mounted weapons on the back. Again, multiple cameras, night vision, fully articulating 360 claws.
Right.
You can mount your disruptors on it and do all the work robotically from far away.
So you don't need to be anywhere physically near the dangerous area.
Yeah, the idea is to do all your investigation and disruption and investigation post-blast with these robots.
Fantastic.
In the event that you can't access an area because of the environment, or if there was a disruption and you manually had to go, pick up pieces, you'd then use the bomb suit if it wasn't completely safe. So this bomb suit is one of a few that we have.
Right.
It offers different levels of protection: blast, fire, fragmentation,
Okay.
and impact if you were thrown from a blast. So you've got a heavy Kevlar and armor plate top. You've got the same protective bib bottoms and a helmet.
Wow, that's quite the.
It's about 100 pounds, the
Holy.
whole suit. Fully integrated fan, lighting, audio. You speak to the operators in the bomb truck and update them constantly on what you're doing, what you're seeing.
So you're very well protected.
To a point.
To a point. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah. There's limitations on the suit, but depending on what the nature of the explosive is, then you could gauge your distance on where you'd work from.
But your primary then would be using the robots.
Always robotic, yeah. And if there's a time where the robots fail or you couldn't get them into the environment, you would potentially ask another agency to come before you go manual, just for safety.
Great. Fantastic. And that wraps up this episode of Policing York Region. It's for more information on the show, rogerstv.com. For more information about York Regional Police, yrp.ca.